All right. Thank you everyone for joining this class. And thank you everyone who is going to also watch the replay that will be available. And super excited for today's class about the path to self acceptance. And so I love to do collaborations. And I just found Caleb kind of randomly, like I do a lot of people on Instagram. And then I follow people and I like their vibe and what they're talking about and what they're preaching. And so I asked him if he wanted to do a collaboration and just share his story because we've chatted a few times in the inbox. So he's going to share his story. And this has been the vibe that I've been on recently. And so I probably have a couple questions based on a couple things he's posted recently, a couple things I've posted recently. And hopefully you guys will feel inspired and have some questions as well. So with that, I'll turn it over to Caleb.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the introduction, and thank you for having me as well. So my journey really in becoming, an author, illustrator, and now NFT artist, it is a very rocky road. That's for sure. I was only an athlete. I'm in college right now. I'm a senior, and for the first 2 years of college, I was playing basketball at it's Lake Erie College. It's a very small Division II school, but after sophomore year, it was right around when COVID started. I sat around and I realized I'm not living life how I want to anymore. It was really just me, myself, my thoughts all day, 24/7. And I had the realization that I want to quit the team and I want to do my own thing. I had no idea that I was going to be, going on a more creative route. At the time, I thought I wasn't creative at all. But fast forward, a couple months, I was very depressed. I'm not even gonna lie. I was in the dumps, and through this depression, I had to start to really channel areas of myself that I had abandoned. I started off by writing poetry. I would illustrate some poems on my iPad that I got and I got this for this purpose. But throughout that, I decided to make a book actually, and initially it was only going to be for my little sister. I I was going to just read it to her for her birthday and that was going to be it. But after that, I said, why wouldn't I publish this? And after another couple months, I sat there in fear of judgment for a while. I don't want to publish it. I don't want to get a bad review, things like that. But I realized, if this can help one kid, because the book's all about self-acceptance. If this can help one kid not lose themselves the way that I lost myself, that's all that matters. And I think deep down, it's really all about, I think we all have things in us that we know can help others and we know can help the world and change the world for better. But it's scary to bring that out of you, and it's hard to channel that out of you because it's a process, it's a journey. But once we do it, it gets so much better, as you know as well.
Unmute. Okay, so why do you think that it's so hard?
Great question. I think that the world around us doesn't want us to be doing the things that we know we can. I think that there's a lot of norms, a lot of societal, just norms, I guess. And with those, the people that actually change the norm, they have to be very lonely. They have to go through a phase of just doing things by yourself, and other people might not get it. And through that process, it is a journey of self-discovery. I think that just there's a lot of thoughts that we get, and limiting thoughts of, oh, I can't do that, and those aren't ours though. Those are from people who are telling us, and we were taught these things that we can't change the world, but we really can.
So what are some of the other things that you do to combat those thoughts?
I meditate a lot. It's been a while. I haven't done it recently, but meditation is the biggest thing for me, and in being able to just understand myself, because if you practice it enough, and if you get a nice routine of things, of mindfulness techniques, then you'll be able to understand where you are throughout all of your thoughts that you get, and where thoughts that really aren't yours are making an impact.
And what do you mean by mindfulness techniques? Because some people don't like the word meditation.
I know. I really think that it has too much of a like a spiritual connotation with it, but I really think it's just about everything's about understanding yourself. That's really what I mean when I talk about mindfulness. I think that the whole world around us, how we see it revolves around ourselves. So if I was a pessimist, then everything that happened to me day in and day out, I would take with a pessimistic outlook. But if I'm optimistic, then I'll be grateful for, say I sold 10 books in a day or something. With a pessimistic mindset, I might be saying, oh, I need 100, I need 1,000. But optimistically, I'm thinking, that's great. I might have changed one life with one of these 10. So I think that it's really about understanding yourself. And when you do that, I think you also understand everyone else around you.
Definitely. So are there any other things that you do, like personality tests? What other, like when you think deeply, do deep breathing, mindfulness, consciousness, all that stuff, like, and you get information, like what do you do with that information? How do you use that to actually transform yourself?
So my process really is mostly about meditating and journaling really also, and finding, what do I want to do? And once I find it, I have to take action on it, even if it's just a tiny step, because I'm someone who, if I get an idea and I love it and, it's super exciting, but if I wait around on that idea, it just becomes overwhelming instead of exciting. And I've taken a couple of personality tests. The Myers-Briggs test is probably my favorite. But things like that, really, I don't do them too often. I do them, more of like a check-in, like see if I've changed at all, things like that. But for me, it's really just about taking action, because action always beats overthinking.
Okay, action beats overthinking. So like we talked about the process of the changes that you made. So you first you wrote a book and then you published the book. Now, how did that lead to you becoming an illustrator, and what have you been able to do in that area?
So after I published the book, I actually started hearing about things like NFTs and all these new concepts.
Okay, what does
And I did,
NFT what does NFT
yeah.
stand for?
Let me take it back a little bit. NFT stands for non-fungible token. Essentially, they're digital assets, and the technology being used around them is very it's very future based. People are deeply investing into projects and things like this, but it's all projection based. I mean, the whole technology, it could not work out at all. But everyone that is in the space kind of has a deep feel and understanding that this is going to be the next step of the internet. So when I heard, when I heard about NFTs initially, I was like, I can't do that yet. But when the time comes, one of those type of mindsets. And fast forward to really a couple months ago, I sat there and I was like, me telling myself that I don't want to do this yet is really myself making an excuse as to not doing it now. And I think that NFTs are perfect now that I've realized it. Like, they're perfect for building IP, for
What does
providing value for
IP
a community.
mean? Just because
Intellectual
we
property.
have some older people that are gonna watch this, so anytime we drop some,
Gotcha.
yeah.
So intellectual property, things like Marvel, things like DC characters, Superman, Batman, all that, like property that you own that's really it's yours. So when I realized that, I just was like, this is another thing that I have to just do. I sat there again for a month or two and was just thinking about it, and it was one of those things where I was like, if I just take a step, then things will fall in place, and things are falling in place as we speak now.
Nice. So I'm on your page right now, and like you post a lot of quotes. I usually share a lot of your quotes, so I'm just gonna say some of the things that you've posted recently. I just want you to expound on like what that means to you and how you think people can apply it. So like one thing that you've posted recently is unlearn what doesn't serve you. Like what does that mean?
That is something that was so big that I learned last year. To me, it really means that we learn so much when we're younger. When we're kids, or when there are kids are sponges. They take in everything from their environment, and it sticks around. It lasts longer than we realize. So for me, I had to realize all these thoughts that were limiting me from doing my entrepreneurial endeavors, that those weren't mine, and I had to unlearn those thoughts and unlearn the things that I had just taken as fact, really. and because it wasn't serving me, it wasn't helping what I knew I wanted to do, and wasn't making me happy. I think that everyone has things in them that could be unlearned. I mean, if you have an idea for something and you're not doing it, then you should really evaluate why, and you probably have some things you need to unlearn.
Got it. And then you posted recently, remember who you are.
Yes, yes, that's actually, that one was a big musing moment for me, because I think that I think that the process of finding yourself is really just remembering who you are. Um, Obviously, I'm a children's author, and and all my content has that style. And it was because when I was, last year when I was talking to therapists and things, I was diving really deep into my childhood, and it wasn't a process of finding myself. It was a process of remembering who I am through all of the conditioning and the learning. And really, I think that everyone should. I think that our childhoods have so much knowledge and wisdom in them, because, I mean, that's where our dreams and our goals are born, really.
All right, another one, vulnerability is strength.
That I love that one too, because that's another one that I learned at like a perfect time. For my whole life, I have always been a very like sensitive person, and as a guy, and even being a black guy, it can be hard for that to be okay, um, just because, norms again. And so really, because vulnerability, I think it's one of the strongest things that we can do for ourselves and others, because if you really are vulnerable, that's what people connect with. I mean, here's a good example. Actually, I was telling a story on my TikTok the other day, and it was a story where I was like, guys, I'm telling you an embarrassing story, and that video has 100,000 views, because people were saying like, oh, don't be embarrassed, like, we get it. And it's vulnerability really is like that. That's where connection starts. um and vulnerability, like, if you're vulnerable with yourself, then that's a key component to mindfulness.
Got it. And then, like, you posted this one on like perfect day when I was going through this, at war with my ego. Does that
Another
mean?
one. Another one that I love. um yeah, that I made that one probably a year ago, and I waited forever to post it, because it was one of those where I was like, is it good enough, is it, and that very notion, that is me being at war with my ego. um
Right.
so, I mean, it's so often we have so many sides of us. One side is saying, things like, I want to make money, or I want to, I need to find comfort. And ego, and our egos, people have to understand that your ego, there's nothing wrong with it, but it serves a purpose, and you have to understand the purpose that it serves, because your ego is concerned with life from when you're born to when you die, right? I mean, not to sound like a Debbie Downer, but that's really what it is. And in my opinion, ourselves, I mean, our souls, whatever you want to call it, that's infinite. And I think there's a difference between ego and self, and ego has a unique purpose. But at the end of the day, you should always make sure that yourself and you are in control of your ego, and you're the decision maker.
Yeah, awesome. And I'll probably go back to that when I share a little bit, but and then there is no success or failure, there's only action.
Yeah, yeah. That that was a recent one too, because I've actually, in my new endeavors, I've been sitting here thinking like, what if I fail? What if, I have 14,000 followers on TikTok? What if they all see that? But at the end of the day, all that matters is action. And if you can think about it in the terms of your failures may lead to your success, then you're never really failing, because your failures are just a stepping stone to where you need to be to succeed. I mean, even if it's, I mean, here's a good example, right? Mark Zuckerberg with Facebook. He's just one of the wealthiest people in the world, one of the most successful people in the world. He failed time and time again before he had the idea for Facebook. And even when he had the idea for Facebook, it wasn't what it is now. It was like a dating or some sort of matching site for Harvard. And if you allow yourself to fail step by step, then you'll realize that it's actually a success. And action is really like it's the equalizer in that scenario.
Awesome, awesome. Anyone have any additional questions or comments? Anyone that's on the line? Or you can type it in the chat as well. If anyone has, if there's any feelings, any doubts you guys have, or any, if you want any specifics or anything, you can type it in the chat. I'll go with one more. Live without limits. What does that mean to you?
To me, that really just means that, you know, I the way I have to think about things now is no one ever knows anything about how life should be lived, and no one especially knows how your life should be lived besides you. So whatever limits that you do have, and whatever goals and dreams, whatever limits are stopping you from getting to those goals and dreams, they're really unnecessary, and they're only hindering your happiness. Because I mean, in my opinion, anyone can do anything. I think that as long as they apply themselves and are willing to work hard. I mean, I the way I see it is I'm very creative, but I could, in 10 years or 5 years or 5 days, I could want to go from being an author to a musician. And if that's the case, that's the case, and I have to be okay with that.
Okay, so a couple questions. What motivates you as a writer?
That's a good question. Um, Honestly, all I want to do is I I almost like I pick a person that I'm talking to with each book, and I want to help that person. And every time it's a version of myself that I'm trying to help, if that makes any sense. So with my kids book, it's about self-acceptance, because I when I was writing it, I literally would think about, when I was 6, where did I leave? Where did I abandon myself? And what could I have read, or what could I have consumed that would have maybe given me the nudge to keep on track instead of leaving myself. So really, all I care about is helping at least one person. And I believe deep down that when you do that, if that's your mindset, then the money's going to come with it, because more people will gravitate towards that if it's authentic.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally love that because, like, people a lot recently, people have been asking me, how do you come up with your content? And I'm like, well, my Feel Good Fridays are something that I need. Usually I'm just talking to myself and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
well, if I needed to learn this, maybe one other person needed to learn this. So I'm
Exactly.
just going to talk about it live. And then, all of the quotes and stuff, I'm like you said, when you get to a point of self acceptance and like you are very clear on what your brand is and what you're trying to communicate to the world, like it just flows. It's amazing how it just
Mm-hmm.
flows. And, I've had some re ups on a lot of stuff that I had to do recently, and I have more clarity on who I am, and there's just more flow. And it's like I have stuff come all the time, like I can't even keep up
Yeah.
with it.
Yeah. I mean,
But
it's like we were talking about this the other day on Instagram. Like it's a lifelong process. It really is. Like I said, right now I'm an author. Tomorrow I may want to, be a plumber. I don't know. Like, but it's
right,
about,
right,
again,
right.
being vulnerable and like open, and it's about being okay with going on a setback to really to move your life forward in the way that you
Right.
want.
So, another question, how do you deal with setbacks and creative goals?
That's a great question. I think that, so even right now, I've been kind of working through a very very deep creative fatigue, actually, and what I'm realizing is that comes from just not pushing myself like I would like to. Um, I think that any creative, if you have these setbacks, or if you have these quote failures, then it's easy to say, "Oh no, now my reputation, my brand is ruined." But you have to keep going, because at the end of the day, no one's going to remember the failures. So as long as you keep going towards your goals, and if you keep, I made Pluto's Big Adventure. That's my book. It hasn't sold $1 million worth of copies, but what if my next one does? What if the one after that does? Like it's just all about just trusting your process, and trusting that what you're putting out into the world has value and will change lives.
Awesome, awesome. Any other questions? Well, all right. I guess I can go ahead and share a little bit. So again, like when we chatted, I was just like, yeah, I totally feel. And for, I'm a little bit older, and so I feel like I'm in phase three right now. It's like you said, this is a lifetime journey. It's so I'm just like in phase three of all of this stuff. So the same thing for me when I was so used to just being running all the time and being such a workaholic. And at the time, I felt happy and fine and good. And
Hmm.
then COVID hit, and I'm an extreme extrovert. And I was actually not working my day job for 8 weeks. And I was in bed like 2 months in depression. And it was all this time with just me being alone with my thoughts. And so I had to do all of this reading and workbooks and trauma healing and talking about emotions and using new tools to help with all the things. Um, and then in December, I decided I'd been waiting for a specific amount of, I had a couple of streams of my entrepreneur endeavors that I've been doing for 6 years. And I was waiting to hit a complete level in what I had in order to say, I'm going to quit my job. And I've been saying that for a couple years. And in December, I said, I'm going to find a date to quit my job and I'm just going to quit my job. I'm going to let
Hmm.
that drive what I'm doing. And then I was dragging my feet and everything. I'm like, I'll do my, I'll do the budget when I get my taxes. And then I delayed my taxes. And then I did all these things. And then recently I've been like working with a couple of coaches and things like that. And so in the past, just even 3 months, there's been so, like you said, returning to who you were. And I've had complete like personality shifts. Like, so, and over the past couple of years, I found out, oh, I'm an intuitive. Like,
Hmm.
I was never that before. And I was the same way, the same person be like, I have no creative side whatsoever. I have no intuition. But all the time alone, I started writing poetry. I should be publishing my first poetry book by the end of
Oh,
this
that's awesome.
year because I've just used that for some of my emotions. And then, so like when I take Myers Briggs now, I went from a ESTJ to a ENTJ. And then in my interaction with people, I found out about attachment styles, and I'm a dismissive avoidant. You guys could just hop on my Instagram to figure out what all that is. I'm not going to bore you with the details. But the latest one is that so I have known about the personality style of DISC or the colors or personality plus, or you can do there's animals, there's fish, like there's 7,000 versions of it. But basically there's a dominant one, there's a fun one, there's a very steady even keel one, and there is a more detailed oriented tend to be perfectionist one. And for my entire life I have tested as being the dominant one, then the detailed one, and then the fun one. Like that's how I always test. But the detailed is what I need on my job. It's what I have two very detailed parents, and so I'm like, okay, I can let that go. And I took the test, and I came up as the fun one first. And I was like, that can't be right. I've always been red. I've always been D. I've always been, and I retook the test. I was like, I did something wrong. But my coaches were also saying, no, that's not what you are. They're like, and I told one of them, I was like, well, I've known about this scheme since I was 14. My mom came home and she's like, I took this test and I took the test for you. And it says that you're a D. You're dominant, you're domineering, you're direct. And I was like, I don't know why you're saying that's a bad thing. And he responded and he said, well, your mom told you that when you were 14 and you've been holding on to it ever since. And like I
Hmm.
had this whole like 2 weeks of like I where I was at war with my ego. That's what it was. I was like, I
Yeah.
feel like I just went from warrior princess to regular old Disney princess. Like I'm supposed to be like how do I flip it? Like but then, like you said, the journaling and the reading and the self reflection and being like, no, yeah, that's what I was. That's what I have
Hmm.
to return to. Like that's what I was born to be, and stop fighting with the ego and the hard chick and the boss chick and the you can it's okay. You can let down the walls and the guard and all that stuff, and you can return to who you are. And like you said, you're going to attract more of your tribe when you do
Hmm.
that. So
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, the way I see it is our egos are the story of ourselves the version of ourselves that's the story of who we tell ourselves we are, if that makes any
Yes.
sense. So
Yep.
for me, my ego, right, playing college basketball, oh, I'm cool, I'm an athlete, I'm a freshman, I'm on the basketball team, but that wasn't me. I mean, sure it was, but that wasn't who I am deep down. That wasn't what I want to be doing. And the sooner you return to yourself, I mean, it's not easy, but it's worth it. It really is.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not at all. Let me see if I can find this quote. I had posted something that I watched by Gary Vee, and he had said, I think he said, I'm willing to accept the ramifications of being my authentic self. Like, and
Mm-hmm.
that's what makes it so hard. And like I did a post about that because there are ramifications. Some people are going to be like, yeah, you're too loud now. Like I don't like
Right.
this. Like you're going to lose people. And then some people are just not going to be attracted to you because they're like, you're obnoxious and you're annoying. And I don't like people like
Mm-hmm.
that. So, like, there are ramifications, and that's what makes it so hard. You created the ego to live in a certain space. And when you let that go, some of those spaces are going to have to change, and some of those people are going to walk away. But your field is going to be open, and you're going to feel like you've returned home. And the people that
Yeah,
need to be in your space are going to be there.
absolutely. I mean, a way I look at it is, so the stuff that I talk about now, I mean, I venture into things like talking about, I mean, racism, or, you know, finding yourself, or just talking about like problems I see in society. I used to think that all this stuff was too weird. And I
Right.
thought, like, no one's gonna want to see that. But like
Right.
those parts of yourself that you think are too weird, or too out there, that those are the parts of yourself that have the most untapped potential. And those are the
Exactly.
parts that the world needs. Because I mean, let's be honest, like how we live life isn't perfect. So maybe
Right.
if you were your authentic self, you could go create the version of the world that you want. And I guarantee, like you said, there's the tribe. Others want that as well,
Right.
even if they don't know it yet.
Yeah, one of the hardest things I ever had to post was like the week after George Floyd, like posting my story and explaining how everyone was affected. And like, cause I was in bed and depressed the whole weekend. And like, I just saw, I was like, they don't understand. Like, I'm like, they
Mm-hmm.
don't understand what we're going through. And like, I'm like, I have to write something and I have to share. And that was shared like 225 times on Facebook. Like
Really.
there were so many of my white friends were like, I get it now. Like I understand. And they were like, I gotta share this with other people because I want to be empathetic and I didn't get it. And then I was able to like we thankfully I had like a really awesome VP and he got all of us together and he's like, what do you guys need? I was like, you need to let us tell our stories. You need to let
Mm-hmm.
us understand. And like I was the first one that did it. And then it was a series. And then there were people from other companies that saw my Facebook and they're like, can I copy and paste and read this at my company? So it was just like, and it was one of the hardest things that I ever did because I'm like, I am apolitical. I am not taking sides in anything. I believe that God will take care of everything eventually, but I'm in pain and I need you guys to
Mm-hmm.
understand why I'm in pain and my friends are in pain and everybody that has dark skin is in pain. And this is why. This is collective trauma. I need
Mm-hmm.
you guys to understand why we're in pain and why we can like barely get out of bed right now and why we're upset. Even though, again, completely apolitical, I'm not saying
Right.
anything, but I need you to understand our pain right now.
Well, the very fact that racism has been politicized is an issue, in my opinion. But
Right.
it's funny. It's funny you tell that story, because right around the same time is like when I had a big shift within myself. So right when COVID started, I started doing some endeavors, just trying to make like entrepreneurial content on Instagram, and I was really just hopeful of, I'd get someone to sponsor my page or something. And so I was doing things like interviewing marketing executives, or just creators of all types. But during that time, I was like, just like I kind of went into my shell a bit, and I was like, I want to do more than only talk about entrepreneurship. I love entrepreneurship. I love being able to build your own lifestyle, but I want to talk about like deeper things. And right around that, when that happened, again, I had to be vulnerable with myself, and I had to allow myself to take the step back. And I stopped posting on that page while I was figuring out what to do next. Sorry, this light is terrible, but I, I had to just like really evaluate, what do I want to do now? Because I thought that it was going to be, talking about entrepreneurship forever. And in a way it will be, because I mean, it's always going to be part of me being an entrepreneur, but it wasn't just entrepreneurship. I didn't want to just be talking about those things. I wanted to talk about just life.
Right. Yeah, and that's like you were saying before, the evolution and everything. And it's kind of interesting too because like um when I tell people what I do in my coaching, they're like, "You do holistic wellness and you do self-development?" And it's like and then it's like, I posted recently, I don't even like to even use the word coach because now like I'm helping other content creators put courses together and I'm like I'm consulting and I'm doing this, but I'm like what I do is I actually take chaos and bring clarity. And it
Hmm.
doesn't really matter what space that is. So if you are doing unwell physically, I can give you this little test and I can see, oh, you have deficiency here and you need this and this. If you do this for the next 12 weeks, you'll feel better, right? And then I can look at your emotions and I can say, oh, you need a little bit of touch therapy and aromatherapy. And if you do this and deep breathing and blah, 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 then you'll feel better. And then I can look at your business and I can say, oh, yeah, you want to do all of this. I can put those ducks in a row. And then if you do this, and I help you see that within yourself. So for me, it's like it's all the same thing, but other people look at it and say,
Yeah.
where are you? You're all over the place. What do you do? Like, to me, it's very clear.
And the way I see it is there are so many like successful and well-known people that do the same thing that we're doing, like very all over the place. And eventually it all makes sense to everyone else.
Right.
Like as long as you have the vision, that means that it's up to you to go make it the reality. And then
Right.
once it's the reality, then everyone's going to say, "Oh wow, how'd you do that?" And you'll be saying,
Right.
I told you exactly how to do it the whole time."
Right. You just can see it. Now you can see it. Yeah.
Exactly.
All right. Any other questions or comments from anyone here?
If anyone wants to come on and like talk a little bit too, like I'd be open to that.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Yeah. Because we have plenty of time. So if
Hmm.
anyone can turn their camera on, ask a question, say a comment, say amen. So I guess while we're waiting for anybody to do that, I
Amen.
just put my IG in there if you want to let people to know how to get a hold of you, follow
So
you.
yeah, it's at Caleb Kynard across all platforms. CalebKynard. Instagram is more for like my art and things like that. TikTok, I talk a lot about NFTs and things like that. Working on a podcast and a YouTube page. I'll let you know when that comes all together.
Sounds good. Sounds good. And then if anyone else on here wants to connect.
Yeah, I would love to talk to you guys more. I mean, outside of this, um, you can always DM me, and if you do, just say, "Hey, I'm coming from this webinar," and I'll follow you back, and we can talk more.
All right. And Z, did you have another? Do you think it serves us to be conscious of our personality types all of the time
Do
or
I?
hinders us?
I think it's about each person. I mean, for me, I like to do it as a very like occasional thing. Just kind of check in and see how I've changed. But for someone else, it might benefit them more. I think it's about self awareness here. I think
Hmm.
that if I were to only look at that, then I get a little narrow minded from it. But some people that helps them like do the opposite. Really, it helps them look within. But for me, sometimes it makes me look more out, like an extrinsically. But I think that really it's about whatever's best for you. And I know that might not be the answer you were hoping to hear, but I think as long as you are self aware and if you know yourself, then you can do whatever you need to do to continue to grow.
Yeah. So I can answer that because I am a personality junkie. And so I believe that everybody needs to go to the strength finders process that I have because that one is not a box, right? Like you get your top 5 strengths and there's a 1 in 8 million chance that someone has the same top 5 strengths in your same order. So it's not one of those where it's like everybody's here. It's not 4 boxes, it's not 12 boxes, it's not. So everyone needs to do strength finders. And the purpose of any personality, I am the biggest advocate of personality because it's the way my brain works, right?
Hmm.
So it helps me remember, like when I know that another person is whatever, then I'm like, oh, they don't vex me in my soul so much because that's just how they naturally are. But I would never like I hate it when people use it as a box or an excuse. And anytime that I teach on the five love languages or disc, if I say that my love language is words of affirmation and gifts and acts of service, that doesn't mean that if I marry someone, then they don't deserve physical touch. I still have to learn to
Right.
speak the way. And so personalities are really for you to speak in a way that another person that's not aware possibly can understand you better. It's not for you to say, oh, I'm always going to be late now that I found out I'm the fun one. I don't got to
Right.
show up on time because I found out I'm the fun one. I'm not really detailed. See, I got to do it. That's not how you use it. You use it for you to know that if I'm going to create a team, then don't ask me for the details. I'm going to
Right.
find a person who has that strength to do the details because if and on my job I have to be detailed. Like if it's just me, then I just got to develop all of the qualities, right? But if I have the
Hmm.
opportunity to have a team, let's all walk in our strengths so that we can all go faster and further together because we're all doing what we're best at. But never, ever, 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 ever use it. Like it irks me to my soul when somebody says, oh, they just assume the personality that's the one that's supposed to be the steady and the calm one. Oh, you just did karaoke. How did you do karaoke? Because she liked to
Right.
sing. There's no limits. There's no boxes here. It's just a guideline for you to understand. And my brain just works well in that. But like you said, if your brain is the one that is just gonna feel restricted, then don't use them. but
Right.
but there
Right.
are ones that are not like this huge box that are very individualized. Like strength finders, there's 34 of them, and it's all about you. It's not like I can go find somebody else's strengths and be like, oh, now I can type you because I know your top 5 strengths. That'll never happen with strength finders. So
Yeah. I mean, another way I think they can be used as well is, so say, I'm an INFP, and say I wanted to, evaluate where I am, and I had a goal of what I want to be. Say I want to become say I want to get into programming, like coding. Um, I would take the test, and I would look at it and say, this is what I need to work on, and things like
right,
that.
exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. You can see where your gaps are. Yeah. And
exactly.
not feel bad. Like you said, if you're naturally extroverted, then you just use that information. That doesn't mean you can't be a speaker, you can't be on stage. You now know that you always have to recharge. That's what extrovert
Hmm.
it means. You need more training and you need to make sure that you recharge as opposed to me. Like I love to be on stage. Like I'll probably won't be able to sleep because I have 3 things to do tonight. Like me being on stage and being around people energizes me. But that doesn't mean that I can't do mindfulness and sit in silence and be quiet either, because that just means that I need to practice that more than maybe somebody else. So,
Absolutely. And here's a small, like, I guess, life hack, or here's how I see things. I think that it's very efficient and effective to double down on your strengths, and and
exactly.
and get help around your weaknesses. So when I was playing
Exactly.
basketball, I was really good at shooting, right? And I would shoot, I mean, 1,000 shots a day, 500 shots a day, just to make sure that when I got on the floor, I wasn't missing. And I mean, I do this as well with like business and creativity. Like I know that I'm not Picasso, but
Right.
but I'll make very very fun and easily digestible, like kid style content that's for people of all ages. And I know that that's my strength, and I'll continue to play towards that instead of trying to branch out and be something that I'm not.
Absolutely. And Jocelyn has a
I have
question.
oh, okay, thank you. So my question was regarding your children's book. You said that you started off writing it for or you wrote it for your sister, and then you decided to publish it. And then later you said that when you're writing, you think about what would have benefited you as a child. So for your children's book, what was it that you were trying to, I don't want to say heal, but what were you trying to save or help a child through?
So my book is really, it's all about self-acceptance and understanding that who you are is perfect, if that makes sense. So you don't need to be anything else or anyone else. And so it's called Pluto's Big Adventure. It's about Pluto, the planet, and essentially Pluto's being told, you're too small, you can't hang out with us. And then in Pluto goes and talks to the universe, which I kind of use as a reference to like God. And in talking to the universe, Pluto finds out I'm perfect just as I am, and I don't need to be anything else. So when I was doing that, I was really looking back when I was younger and telling myself, everything that I want to do, like it's okay, it's valid. The things that I want to talk about are valid. Who I am is valid. Because for the longest, I really did abandon, like, I would never be on here today if I had kept these limiting beliefs within myself. So it was really about going back and talking to, honestly, 6-year-old, 5-year-old me, and telling myself, stay true to yourself. And I really was watching my little sister like kind of develop and grow, and I was like, she is just she's a very just warm and welcoming person, and I don't want her to lose that. I don't want her to go through the same thing I did. So I was like, I'll make this for her, and I'll give it to her as like a gift. I'll read it to her one time, but then now it's published.
That's so cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love that. And I always like when I see like kids dancing or doing something or even just waving, like I'm like, I will stop and be like, stay like that forever. Like don't let the
Exactly.
world like, if they're waving and I don't want them to be like, I wave all the time and no one waves back. Be like, no, say hi to everybody. I'm gonna say hi. And I actually had like a couple months ago, I had signed up for a 5K and I went and did a 5K, and there was a daughter and a father, and they were training for something, and I'm like, sometimes she looked like she was into it, sometimes she didn't look like she was into it or whatever, but I trained myself for track. Like I ended up having to train myself for track a lot of times, and I was like, thought of the quote, like champions are made in the off season. And so as I was walking around doing my 5K, they happened to be coming down. And so I said, what are you training for? And I think he said she was in tennis or swimming or something. It was whatever season it was like winter or spring. It wasn't even, and this is like the end of summer. And then he looked at me like he needed to explain it to me, but I was like, I looked at her and I was like, keep going, you're doing awesome, because this is where champions are made in the off season. And like the dad's face just like lit up, like she gets it. And I was like, and now she's gonna take that forever. Like the next time that her dad tries to get her out of bed at 8 on a Saturday, she's gonna be like, well, this stranger told me this is how I gotta do it. And I was just like, so yeah, I love
Those
that.
little things, they can change people's lives. They really can.
Yeah, absolutely.
I forget what I was going to say, honestly. It was around that. Oh, finding passion. Because when you find something that you're passionate about, then it's okay to work in the off season or to spend 8, 10, however many hours you're comfortable with a day working on a goal that you think will bring you happiness. And don't always think about money as happiness. Think about the value you want to create and your purpose as happiness, and then you'll attract the money. At least, I mean, I can't back it up financially, but one day I will be able to.
Right. One other thing that I will add too is I think that we're so programmed to focus on the negative. And this is one of the things that my coach reminded me to do. Anytime you get any positive feedback, like screenshot that and like create a like file of that, because we will have 7 people say that they love something, and then one person will question us and we'll focus on that one thing, and like, and even now again, like with what I've done, I've doubled down. Like I have like 4 new clients in the past 6 weeks, and they're like a week at a little 2 days after we have an appointment, they're like tagging me and thanking me. I'm like, that's what we got to focus on. Like, this is why we do that. If I stay where I am And like you said, you don't even get the money. The fact that I've been able to meet with somebody twice and they're like, you changed my life. Like I've been struggling with my eating and you met with me for an hour and now I get what I need to do. It's so clear. Thank you so much.
Hmm.
Like you gotta focus on that. So I've been doing that more. Like when people thank me for something, I screenshot it and I put it up in my stories to remind myself like this is why I'm doing it. Not to brag, but like it doesn't have to be a lot of people. It only needs to be the 3 or 4. And if you
Right.
continue to focus on that and you continue to share, then it will be hundreds of people and it will be thousands of people.
Absolutely. I mean, that hits so deep because so my TikTok account has recently kind of gone from like 100 followers to 14,000, and in that process, I've gotten a lot of positive comments. I mean, probably like 95% positive and 5% negative. And I'll sit there and I'll scroll through the negative. I'm like, oh no. Or I even catch myself letting it affect my art process. I'll sit
Right.
there and they'll be lingering in my mind, like someone saying this isn't art, things like that. And I'm like, if you focus on that, then again, it's like if you internalize it, then that's what the world will your world will be.
Yep.
It's just it's so important to make sure that you stay grounded through all of it and you understand that you're doing your purpose, which the way I see it with purpose and finding your why, if it's your purpose, that's why you're here. That's why you are on earth and that's why you are a human. That's why I'm Caleb Kynard on earth, because I'm here to do the things that I'm doing right now. And like I said, it could change, who knows? But I think
Yep.
deep down it's always about whatever feeling you want to evoke in others.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, all right. We are coming up into the hour. If there's anyone else that would like to share or ask a question, you can feel free to do so. And if not, we'll close it out. The recording will be available in the actual event, the Facebook event, for anyone that marked going to the Facebook event. And then, Caleb, I'll get you the MP4 for you to spread it around wherever you would like it to go. And it'll be on my YouTube channel as well.
Awesome. Yeah.
All
I'll
right.
be putting it on TikTok, Instagram, and maybe
Cool,
probably
cool,
some
cool.
Thank
LinkedIn
you
too.
both.
No
Thank you.
problem. And then I guess I'll just verbally say how to find me because I put it in the chat. So for anyone that watches this, you can follow me on Instagram at Sweet Canela 5. So SweetCanela 5. All right. Have a good evening, everyone. Bye.
See you guys.